Hello again. This is Great Work, a podcast and email helping people who do work we care about have better working lives and do more good. With me, Adam Sandel. Surviving winter working life. In most of North America, the clocks go back in 2 weeks' time. In most of Europe, it's in a week. Apologies to Great Work listeners in the Global South and Australasia for the mistiming. Come back to this one at the right time of year. Anyway, the clocks going back is the trigger for me for becoming a grumpy git. Leaving for work in the dark, leaving work in the dark, often seeing no daylight. Days that are cold, dark and rainy. My patients becoming morose, battling tonsillitis and family feuds. Deciduous trees that are bare, there's less birdsong and everything's muddy. More to do to keep the house warm, the vehicle running, feet dry. I sleep less well, eat too much and become lethargic and crotchety. Until the first sounds and smells of spring, I'm no fun for my colleagues, patients or partner. What I used to do, well, a while back at this time of year, I began reading and trying to follow a note to myself that I nerdily refined over several years. It reminded me how badly I deal with the winter and encouraged me to take on fewer commitments, plan holidays, keep warm and dry, read more fiction, keep running regularly, ration my screen time, and make an effort to see and probably depress friends. And the last few years, I've tried using a bright light regularly in the morning, a sad light. There's pretty good evidence this works for seasonal major depressive disorder, i.e. worse than me, and some evidence that it helps with milder symptoms, probably me at times. Impossible to be sure how much it helped me. I'm not a well-powered, randomized, placebo-controlled trial, but it was easy, safe, cheap, and only a little weird. I think some of this did help, especially the stuff about spending my days well. But winters were still a struggle. I certainly hadn't fixed the problem. So this spring, I was excited to come across a book published last year by an academic psychologist, Kari Leibowitz, called How to Winter. Harness your mindset to thrive on cold, dark, or difficult days. I read it. It's great, and I've been saving it up for you ever since. Leibowitz is part of a school of psychologists, many of them Stanford University-based, interested in the extraordinary extent to which what we expect to happen affects our experience of things. There's a life-changing book about all this by science writer David Robson called The Expectation Effect, also highly recommended. Teachers and others are familiar with this from the ideas of growth mindset and its evil nemesis, fixed mindset. It's also near the heart of that most evidence-based of psychological therapies, cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's a major influence on some of the ideas underpinning this podcast and the book I'm writing about all of this. The line Leibowitz takes, informed by her own research, is this: what separates those who thrive during the winter from grumpy winterers like me is our winter mindsets. Think of winter positively as something to look forward to, and you'll enjoy it. Think of it negatively, and of course it's going to make you grumpy. In other words, my note to myself, reminding myself as if an immutable fact that I handle winter badly, got it all wrong. I should have been looking for things about the winter to relish. And there are plenty of those. They depend on who and where you are, but some of mine, sunny winter walks, winter food, quiet evenings with candles and a fire and everything warm while a storm rages outside. Hygge, if I'm pronouncing that right, the Danish and Norwegian word describing the contented mood evoked by comfort and conviviality. The peaceful sound of rain on the roof at night. The best sunrises of the year, freshly fallen snow, baking. Even some winter jobs like clearing the roof gutters or bringing in firewood can be simple and satisfying. Nature and the outdoors are vital to my well-being. If you're a city dweller, or even if not, your list may be different, but it can be just as long and just as good. It's a change of mindset, and I'm feeling energized and newly positive just by making that mental shift. Here comes winter. It'll be fun. I'm going to make the most of it and focus on the good stuff, and it'll be spring before I know it. Leibowitz's How to Winter has lots of practical advice. Here are just a few of her suggestions. Consider and focus on what you're going to enjoy about winter. Plan a celebration for the night the clocks go back. Challenge your negative thoughts about winter. Remember, it's often your reaction, not the situation itself. I have an earlier episode about that. Might you be overreacting? Are you prone to dwell on the things you don't like about winter at the cost of the fun bits and your mood? Spend time outdoors and pay attention to nature. It's still there, and it's wonderful even in winter. Keep on getting exercise outdoors if that's right for you. Explore slow hobbies, whether things you already enjoy or something new. Winter can be a season for slowing down, for doing less, and prioritizing restful things you enjoy. Smaller lamps, candles, a fire if you can, and overhead lights off. And speak up for winter with others. As Leibowitz writes, saying, "It feels so good in here," upon entering somewhere warm, has a completely different effect from "it's so gross out." By focusing on the positives of winter with others, you may improve not only their winters, but also your own winter mindset. There are many more ideas in How to Winter, but more than that, the book captures the spirit of relishing the colder, darker months in the northern climes where it was researched. If you're like me, if winter can grind you down, I'd really recommend you read it. My last piece was about time boxing. In a hilarious and wonderful comment, Great Work reader Katie Thrower speculated about whether women are on average better at juggling multiple things at once, and whether time boxing may be more useful to men. Well, there's a serious point here, and there is, I think, an answer. First, what people are generally talking about when they say multitasking is actually rapid task switching. And there's plenty of evidence that task switching is terrible for everyone's performance. Secondly, the gender difference thing is actually quite well researched, and the evidence is that that stereotype doesn't reflect reality. The best study I'm aware of is by Patricia Hirsch and colleagues called Putting a Stereotype to the Test: The Case of Gender Differences in Multitasking Costs in Task Switching and Dual Task Situations. I put all the links in the podcast notes. So my guess is that what's going on is that many women's lives require an awful lot of task switching, to which women adapt, and by which women are disadvantaged. I sometimes talk about great work ideas on other people's podcasts too. My Robot Boss is the brilliant Devon Forster McConnell's podcast on how AI is affecting and may affect work and leadership. In her latest episode, we discuss being ground down by work you care about, AI in medicine, and more. Do consider signing up for My Robot Boss, which you can find on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. It's really interesting stuff, whatever your perspective on AI. And an update from me. It's an exciting time at Great Work Towers. This weekend, I head to the remote Indigenous Reserve where for the last few years I've worked as a doctor for 2 weeks a month. This will be my last trip there for now, which is poignant as it's the most fulfilling work I've ever done in a community that's been extraordinarily welcoming to me and that has come to mean much to me. But I need a break, and the time has come to do some serious work on the book that this whole Great Work project grows out of. So from November, I'll be taking a writing sabbatical, focusing on turning the current first draft of the Great Workbook into a second draft, and getting things ready to approach agents and publishers towards the beginning of next year. My own wintering project, and I'm really excited about it. That's it for this time. Thanks to Bren Russell for his skillful editing, and a big thanks to you for being part of the Great Work community. If you're listening on a podcast app or YouTube, you can also sign up for the emails at www.adamsandell.com. That's www.adamsandell.com. That way the podcasts land straight in your inbox with a version you can read if you prefer. And that's the link to share if you know anyone else who might be interested. Thank you so much for listening.